The arrival. Grand Arbiter Selen stood motionless before the observation window of Harmony Station, his four eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed another world going dark. The silence in the command center was oppressive as the entire staff watched the feed from Elysium Colony. One moment there were standard transmissions, the next, nothing. Just like the previous 7 worlds in the past 3 cycles. How many? Selen asked, his voice barely audible. Commander Valia, her silver scales reflecting the dim blue emergency lighting, consulted her datapad. 8 million colonists, Arbiter, plus the defense flotilla of 6 ships. Selen's secondary arms trembled slightly, a sign of emotional distress he would never have allowed himself to show in normal times. But these were not normal times. The Galactic Confederation, a peaceful union of 23 species spanning over 200 star systems, faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered in their 8 centuries of unified history. The entity leaves nothing behind, Science Director Naren added, her tentacles twisting anxiously around her ceremonial staff. Our sensors detect no debris, no radiation signature, no distress beacons. It's as if Elysium simply ceased to exist. The Confederation had built its society on principles of harmony, scientific advancement, and diplomatic resolution. Their ships were marvels of technology, designed for exploration, trade, and cultural exchange. What little defensive capability they possessed was intended for protection against cosmic phenomena or the occasional pirate group from the outer systems. Nothing had prepared them for this. Arbiter, we're receiving an urgent message from Outpost Kepler, announced Communications Officer Draz, his bioluminescent patches flashing with excitement. They've detected an unidentified vessel entering Confederation space. Selen turned sharply. The entity. No, Arbiter. It's a ship. But unlike any in our registry, it's transmitting an identification code that doesn't match our protocols. The main screen shifted to show a vessel that made several officials gasp audibly. Where Confederation ships were elegant, with smooth organic curves and translucent sections that showcased their advanced aesthetics, this craft was disturbing. Angular, asymmetrical, with dark metallic plating, and what appeared to be weapon systems covering at least 30% of its whole surface. Magnify, Selen ordered. The image zoomed in on a symbol painted on the ship's side, a blue and green sphere with unfamiliar markings beneath it. We're being hailed, Draz reported with surprise. They're broadcasting in standard Confederation trade language. Selen hesitated only briefly. Open the channel. The screen changed to show a bipedal being with light brown skin, dark hair cut short, and only 2 eyes. It wore a dark uniform with several colored patches and symbols of rank. This is Captain Mayurias of the Earth vessel Titan's Hammer. The being spoke, its voice steady and confident. We come in peace and offer assistance. We've been tracking an entity we call a Void Weaver that has entered your territory. We believe it's responsible for the destruction of several of your worlds. The command center fell silent. Earth. No such world existed in the Confederation database. I am Grand Arbiter Selen of the Galactic Confederation. We have no record of your species or your world in our archives. The human's expression remained neutral. That doesn't surprise me, Arbiter. Earth has only developed interstellar capabilities within the last 70 years. We've been cautious about announcing our presence widely. Yet you possess a ship with considerable military capability, Commander Valia noted, stepping forward. Captain Rice nodded. Earth's history has necessitated defensive preparedness. The Void Weaver is not the first cosmic threat we've encountered, though it may be the most dangerous. You know this entity. Science Director Naren moved closer to the screen, her scientific curiosity overcoming protocol. We faced a smaller one in the Proxima Centauri system 23 years ago. It destroyed 3 outposts before we found a way to stop it. Captain Rice paused. Arbiter Selen, I understand your caution toward an unknown species arriving unannounced, but time is critical. The Void Weaver grows stronger with each world it consumes. We request permission to dock at your station to share information that might save lives." Selen exchanged glances with his senior staff. The Confederation's first contact protocols were clear. Unknown species were to be carefully evaluated before direct interaction. But they had already lost 8 worlds, and their own attempts to communicate with or deter the entity had proven futile. "Permission granted, Captain Reyes. Docking Bay 7 will be prepared for your arrival. We will convene an emergency council to hear what you know of this threat." Captain Reyes nodded sharply. "Thank you, Arbiter. We'll arrive in 43 minutes. Reyes out." As the transmission ended, the command center erupted in hushed conversations. "Arbiter, is this wise?" Security Chief Thorne asked, his crystalline form pulsing with concern. "This vessel is clearly designed for warfare. The occupants could pose a danger to the station. What choice do we have, Thorne?" Selen replied wearily. "Our peaceful fleet is being consumed world by world. If these, humans, have encountered this entity before and survived, we must listen." 3 hours later, the Confederation Council chamber was in uproar. The human delegation, Captain Rice and 4 officers, stood calmly at the center as accusations and questions flew from all sides. "Your historical database describes thousands of years of warfare among your own kind," exclaimed Councillor Benzi of the Forian Alliance. "How can we trust a species with such violent tendencies?" Captain Rice remained composed. "Councillor, we don't hide our history, both its darkness and light. Yes, humanity fought itself for millennia before we achieved unity. Those struggles taught us hard lessons about survival that peaceful species might never learn." She gestured toward the holographic display, showing the path of destruction left by the Void Weaver. "Your Confederation has known peace for 8 centuries. It's admirable, but it has left you unprepared for threats that cannot be reasoned with or appeased." "And what exactly is this Void Weaver?" asked Science Director Naren. Commander Chen, the human science officer, stepped forward. "We believe it's a sentient cosmic anomaly, a tear in space-time that has gained consciousness and learned to consume matter and energy to grow. It doesn't think like biological entities. It has no concept of diplomacy or mercy, only hunger and expansion." "How did you defeat it before?" Selen asked, cutting through the debate. "With great difficulty and sacrifice," Captain Rice answered grimly. "The Void Weaver has only one vulnerability. It cannot absorb certain energy frequencies that disrupt its quantum field coherence. Our ship is equipped with modified weapons systems specifically designed to exploit this weakness. One ship against an entity that devours entire worlds." Commander Valia said skeptically, "Even with your weapons, the odds seem impossible." Lieutenant Commander Jackson, the tactical officer, smiled for the first time. "With respect, Commander, humans specialize in beating impossible odds, and we're not suggesting we fight alone. We can modify some of your vessels to carry our disruption technology." Before anyone could respond, the station's alert system activated. A panicked voice came over the comm system. "Arbiter Selen, the entity has appeared in the Lyra system. Nova Haven Colony has issued a Class 1 distress call. They report. The transmission dissolved into static. Nova Haven has a population of 12 million. Valia said, her voice hollow. Captain Rice looked directly at Grand Arbiter Selen. "Your people are dying. Arbiter, will you continue to debate our trustworthiness, or will you let us help you fight?" Selen stood silent for a long moment, feeling the weight of 23 species looking to him for leadership. Finally, he straightened to his full height. "Commander Valia, prepare our response fleet. Captain Rice, we accept your assistance." He turned to address the council. "The Confederation has cherished peace for 8 centuries, but today we must remember that sometimes peace must be defended." As the human delegation departed to prepare their vessel, Science Director Naren approached Selen privately. "Do you trust them, Arbiter?" she asked quietly. Selen watched Captain Rice walking away, noting the confident stride and the way the other humans moved in perfect coordination with their leader, like a hunting pack from ancient times. Trust, not entirely. But I believe their intentions align with our survival. He paused. Did you notice, Naren? When they spoke of their previous encounter with the entity, Captain Rice mentioned sacrifice. Their eyes hold shadows of past conflicts we can barely comprehend. They are warriors, Naren said, something the Confederation has not needed for generations. Perhaps, Selen replied softly, that is exactly what we need now. On the observation deck, the human vessel detached from the station, its dark angular form a stark contrast to the elegant Confederation ships assembling nearby. As it moved into formation, the station's sensors detected energy signatures that made the science officers stare in disbelief. The humans had arrived, and war had come with them. The confrontation. The command deck of the Confederation flagship Eternal Harmony had never been designed for combat operations. Its spacious layout, with comfortable seating arrangements and aesthetic viewing ports, reflected the Confederation's priorities of exploration and diplomacy. Now it buzzed with frantic activity as crew members struggled to adapt to their new reality. Shield harmonics are fluctuating again, reported Lieutenant Zuri, frustration evident in her normally melodic voice. The modifications from the humans are incompatible with our defense matrices. Commander Valia suppressed a sigh. The 12 hours since accepting the humans' help had been a crash course in warfare that none of her people had been prepared for. 6 Confederation vessels had been hastily retrofitted with human technology, an integration process that would normally take months compressed into hours. Keep working with their engineering team, she instructed. Their Lieutenant Park seemed confident the systems could be synchronized. On the main view screen, the Earth vessel Titan's Hammer maintained position at the head of their small fleet. Despite being significantly smaller than the Confederation ships, there was something undeniably imposing about its presence. Commander, called Communications Officer Lyran, Captain Rice is requesting your presence aboard their vessel for final tactical coordination. They're sending a shuttle. Valia nodded, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. Inform the captain I'll be there shortly. 20 minutes later, Valia found herself stepping into a world utterly foreign to her experience, where Confederation vessels were designed with open spaces and natural lighting. The human ship was compact, utilitarian, with every square centimeter serving a clear purpose. Crew members moved with quick efficiency, acknowledging her presence with respectful nods before returning to their tasks. Captain Rice met her in a room they called the CIC, Combat Information Center. A 3-dimensional tactical display dominated the space, showing the Lyra system and the projected position of the Void Weaver. Commander Valia, thank you for coming, Rice greeted her. We've analyzed the entity's movement patterns and believe we've identified its next target, Celestis Station. Valia felt her heart stutter. Celestis is our largest research hub in this sector. Over 40,000 civilians, plus it houses our primary xenobiology archives, which makes it a prime target, said Commander Chen, manipulating the display. The Void Weaver isn't just consuming physical matter. It's absorbing information, technology, possibly even consciousness itself. Each world it takes makes it more complex, more adaptable. Our scientists estimate we have 8 hours before it reaches Celestis, Lieutenant Commander Jackson added. Evacuation is impossible in that time frame. Then we must intercept it, Valia stated, her resolve firming. What is your strategy, Captain? Rice gestured to the tactical display, where red and blue markers indicated ship positions. The Void Weaver has shown a pattern of extending tendrils of its quantum field before fully materializing. These tendrils are vulnerable to our disruption technology, but only if hit simultaneously from multiple vectors. She highlighted 6 positions. Your ships will form a hexagonal formation here, creating a containment field with your harmonic shields. The Titan's Hammer will penetrate the outer boundary and deliver our primary payload, a quantum resonance device that should destabilize the entity's core structure. Should? Valia questioned. In warfare, Commander, there are no certainties, Rise replied evenly. Only calculated risks and necessary actions. Valia studied the human captain's face, noting the calm determination in her eyes. Your ship will be at greatest risk in this scenario. The entity has consumed vessels far larger than yours without difficulty. A small smile touched Raya's lips. The hammer is more resilient than she appears, Commander. And humans have a particular talent for surviving where others would not. As she returned to the eternal harmony, Valia contemplated the stark differences between their peoples. The Confederation had evolved beyond warfare, dedicating their energies to art, science, and exploration. Humanity, it seemed, had evolved through warfare, forging themselves into something both fascinating and terrifying. 6 hours later, the fleet assumed position near Celestis Station. The massive research facility had been partially evacuated, but thousands remained aboard, working desperately to secure irreplaceable research data. Void signature detected, announced Science Officer Trell, his voice tight with tension. Transit imminent. All ships, assume formation Delta, Valia ordered. Activate shield harmonics as instructed. The 6 Confederation vessels moved into position, their elegant forms arranging themselves in the hexagonal pattern. At the center, the Titan's hammer waited, its weapon systems fully powered. Spatial distortion increasing, reported Trell. Entity materialization in 30 seconds. Valia opened a channel to Captain Reyes. Are you certain your ship can withstand direct contact with the entity? Reyes' reply was steady. We're about to find out, Commander. Stand ready with your shield network. The space before them began to darken, not like a shadow, but like a hole in reality itself. Tendrils of nothingness reached outward, probing toward Celestis Station. Now, Reyes commanded. The Confederation ships activated their modified shields, creating an interlocking energy pattern that contained the emerging entity. The Titan's hammer surged forward, directly into the spreading darkness. They're being consumed, gasped Lieutenant Siri. No, Valia replied, watching intently. Look closer. Where the human vessel touched the darkness, blue-white energy flared. The hammer was pushing through the entity's outer field, its modified shields creating a bubble of protection. All ships, begin Phase 2, Valia ordered. Channel disruptor beams through the containment field. The Confederation vessels fired in perfect synchronization. Their energy weapons, originally designed for mining and scientific research, now repurposed for war. The beams struck the darkness, creating ripples of distortion. Inside the entity, the Titan's hammer pressed deeper. On her bridge, Captain Reyes gripped her command chair as the ship shuddered violently. Hull integrity at 68%, reported her executive officer. Quantum field disruption is holding, but the entity is adapting. Push forward, Reyes ordered. Prepare the resonance device for manual deployment. Her weapons officer looked up sharply. Manual deployment. Captain, that would require. I'm aware of the requirements. Lieutenant, prepare the shuttle. Outside, the Confederation crews watched in awe as the human vessel continued its seemingly suicidal charge into the heart of darkness. They can't survive that level of quantum distortion, Science Officer Trell said, checking his readings. Their molecular cohesion will fail within minutes. Valia said nothing, her gaze fixed on the tactical display. Something was happening at the center of the entity, a point of light growing steadily brighter. Energy surge detected. Trell shouted, "All ships, brace for impact." The darkness contracted suddenly, then exploded outward in a silent wave of energy. When the sensors cleared, the void was gone. And so was the Titan's hammer. Scan for survivors, Valia ordered, her voice hollow. For long moments, the sensors found nothing. Then, a small shuttle appeared, trailing plasma from damaged engines. "We're receiving a transmission," announced Communications Officer Laran. Captain Rey's face appeared on screen, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. "Mission accomplished, Commander." The resonance device worked. The Void Weaver has been destabilized to a point where it can no longer maintain cohesion in normal space. Your ship, Captain? Velia asked. The hammer did her job, Rise replied, a hint of pride mixing with grief in her voice. Most of the crew evacuated in survival pods before we deployed the device. My shuttle was delayed. 3 days later, the Confederation Council convened an extraordinary session. The surviving humans from the Titan's hammer stood before them as Grand Arbiter Selen addressed the assembly. For 8 centuries, the Galactic Confederation has stood as a beacon of peace and cooperation, he began. We believed ourselves enlightened beyond the need for warfare, beyond the primitive impulses that drive species to build weapons and warships. He gazed at the assembled delegates. We were wrong. Our peace was possible only because we had never faced a true existential threat, one that could not be reasoned with or appeased. Selen turned to Captain Rice and her crew. Humanity reminded us of a truth we have forgotten. Sometimes peace must be defended with force. Their willingness to sacrifice for people they had never met before, beings they owed nothing to, speaks to a nobility of spirit that transcends their warrior nature. He stepped forward, extending all 4 hands in the Confederation's highest gesture of respect. On behalf of 23 species and 200 worlds, I offer the gratitude of the Galactic Confederation. Further, I propose that Earth be offered full membership in our alliance, bringing their unique perspective and protective capabilities into our collective future. Captain Reyes stepped forward. Grand Arbiter, the people of Earth would be honored to join the Confederation. We have much to learn from your cultures and sciences, just as we have defensive knowledge to share. A fair exchange, Selen agreed. Though I must ask, Captain, why did Earth send only 1 ship? If you knew the threat the Void Weaver posed, surely a larger fleet would have been prudent. For the first time, Rise looked slightly uncomfortable. The truth, Arbiter. The Titan's hammer was an exploratory vessel with enhanced defensive capabilities. We didn't come specifically to fight the Void Weaver. We were mapping this sector when we detected its signature. Shock rippled through the council chamber. You mean to say, Science Director Naren interjected, that the vessel that saved us wasn't even one of your dedicated warships? The hammer was a heavy cruiser, yes, Rise confirmed. Our actual battleships are considerably more robust. A murmur ran through the assembly as the implications sank in. The ship that had seemed so intimidating, so clearly built for war, was merely an explorer by human standards. Then we are fortunate indeed to welcome humanity as friends rather than face them as foes, Selen said diplomatically. Later, as the formal proceedings concluded, Commander Velia approached Captain Rice privately. Your ship, she said. It wasn't just tracking the Void Weaver by coincidence, was it? Rice met her gaze steadily. Earth has been watching the Confederation for some time, Commander. We needed to understand if you were the type of alliance worth joining and worth protecting. And your conclusion? That the galaxy needs both our peoples, Rice said simply. Your vision of peace and cooperation, our readiness to defend it. Together, we can build something neither of us could achieve alone. As Valia watched the humans integrate with the various species of the Confederation, she reflected on how quickly everything had changed. A single human ship had arrived, and overnight, the Confederation's understanding of the universe had transformed. Peace remained their highest ideal, but now they understood its true price.